We've got several verses to cover. It's not going to be like brand new topic kind of stuff, but I tried to see if we could do chapter 18 in part 1, part 2. Just couldn't happen. There's just too much there. So we did get through verse 8 last week, but I do need to call your attention to some of it from last week. So as we entered into chapter 18, we talked about, John saw this angel that had great authority and splendor. Right? Splendor. Had great splendor. He shouted with a mighty voice, Babylon has fallen. And so this is kind of what we're seeing happening, is Babylon falling, which is the city of Babylon, kind of, or symbolic of a city. But actually, what does Babylon represent? This stage, the world government. As you remember, the church was last. Not the church, but the world religion was really last chapters. Emphasis chapter 17. The woman is both a mother and a city. They're symbolic of it. And so we're now in the city part, or the representative of the city Babylon, which is the representative of Babylon, the world empire. So it's not just city, and it's not literally brick and mortar. But it's this final word government, monetary system, commerce, everything that's entailed into that. And then John heard another voice, separate from the mighty angel. By the way, that's the third time we've had a mighty angel appear on the scene. And I was going to go through those things. It's chapter 5, I think, and then another chapter. Anyways, this is like the third time we've had a mighty angel referred to. Whether it's the same angel or not sure. But anyways, but then he heard another voice, and it said, come out of her, my people. Come out of her, my people. What is that? I don't remember if we had time to discuss that last week, because that was right towards the end. But what is that a reference to, or what is the idea? What is your understanding of the voice saying, come out of her, my people? Okay, what do you think, Steve?
Well, the last remnants of Christian people.
Okay, so speaking to believers or Christians, okay. Okay, so expound that. Doing what? Christians doing what?
Coming out of the city.
Okay, is it out of a literal city?
Well, it's just coming out. What it means is just come out and don't participate. Just
okay, come out from among them. Don't participate is a good way to put it. So quit acting like the world is almost one way to say that. Quit being like everybody else. And there's a reason. Why would this voice say, come out?
They're his people.
What's that?
They're his people.
Okay. These that are being called out are his. And what's the other practical reason why they're being called out? Destruction. Destruction is imminent. All right. So it's a warning to come out before this destruction happens. Now, we think of Babylon, and we realize that, and again, we'll kind of, I may not make this clear, but we'll kind of bounce around when I almost say Babylon, like it's a city and you're coming out of a city, all this kind of stuff, because our mind goes back to the original Babylon in the Old Testament. And we realize that when we think of the city Babylon in Old Testament, and now it's the worldwide government, but still just kind of think of it in terms, because at that time, Babylon, the city, represented the worldwide empire, and it was all tied together. So it's not all that much different than what this is, except for this is, once again, worldwide and everything. But Babylon thinks, according to what those scriptures said in verse 4 through 8, Babylon thinks she's powerful. Okay, that's not hard to imagine, this world government overthinking her power, or its power. But when we think of a standoff between the entire global world empire of the last days versus God, it's like coming to a fight and Babylon has a squirt gun and God's got a machine gun or something like that. I mean, it's just, there's no way that this is even a contest. The power that she thinks she has, she doesn't have. And there's what no earthly army could do, God does in 1 hour. All right, this is not a problem for God to handle this final world empire, even though it's coalition, even though it's a cooperative effort of all the kings, represented by those 13 kings, and the 7 kings of the world, and the 13 that are given authority, and basically anybody in authority has bought into this. And so it's like the world against God. No contest. Yes?
We may have kind of discussed this before, but don't you think that Satan himself is aware of what the end is going to be, but his whole plan is destruction of God's creation?
Yes.
And mankind.
Exactly. And he's bent to do that. And the best way I can kind of come to grips with that is like, doesn't Satan understand he's a defeated foe? Well, no. And when we talked about it before, I think so, in the terms of we think about someone going to play a football game or something. You've got an underdog, but there's just no way. It's a little old school, you know, is going to be able to beat this world championship school, whatever, you know, that kind of stuff. And yet, every so often it happens, you know. But nonetheless, if they get out there, they've just got spirit. They just think they can do it. Well, maybe they can pull it off, you know. And so there's that underdog kind of mentality, though. Even though all the odds are against you, even though everybody believes you're going to fail, some just have that strength to do that. Now, I wouldn't call it strength for Satan. I'd call it blind deception. He's deceived himself. He is so caught up in lies. You know, people that lie all the time, and they think they can say the way it is and make everybody believe it's a certain way. They get so twisted in their mind, they can't keep truth from lie either. And so when he hears the truth, I don't know that he fully recognizes the truth, because he has denied the truth since his beginning. And so that may kind of go into the psychology, if you were, we're going to psychoanalyze Satan. But anyways, that he's still fighting because he has a purpose, and he's always trying to stop and destroy and kill. Yes, sir.
Don't you think also, though, that even if he knows he's going to lose, he's going to take as many people down with him?
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to see it, too, because, you know, you got these Muslim extremist bomb, you know, and they're going to die in the process, but it's how many they can take down with him. So he is defeated foe, and if he's going to take as many down to the pit as can go. So it may be part of that mixed in. I think I can still win this thing, but if not, I'm gonna destroy as many people on my way out. So yeah, that's kind of this weird thing that's happening. So when we think about Babylon now, we can't just get stuck with the idea of their leader, which is the Antichrist, which is actually Satan in the Antichrist, all right? But we think about the fact that this is the world. These are just people. These are men, all right? These are political leaders, military leaders in the world that have power and authority here on earth, that are just as deceived. Remember, they have been deceived. They've accepted the mark, which means they bought into this, and their allegiance is in this. So they're in a sinking ship, but they're still caught up in it. And so these are really, when we think about Babylon and their mentality here, they think they're powerful. They think if they all get together and they, you know, the whole world's behind us, you know, but they're up against God. And there's just no battle, but they don't seem to understand that.
But most of these people don't even know God.
Right, and so it's,
They
yeah.
don't know what
They don't know Him personally now. They know of God, and that's the thing. There are people that really believe there is a God, but they don't love and accept Him, and they certainly don't love and accept His Son, Jesus Christ, so they're not saved. So just the knowledge of God doesn't make you saved or more wise, all right? And so they know there's a God because they've seen the evidence. They can't deny what they've seen in this latter part of the tribulation, that this is the wrath of the other side, of God, that they're so caught up in it, I assume they just can't understand. Now, we think of this, of Babylon, thinking she's all this, thinking that this last world empire somehow is going to survive and defeat the odds and all that. But we don't forget what happened in the day of Sodom and Gomorrah. And in that destruction, which was God against a city, God against a moral outcry, and the angels came and they got Lot out of there. But as soon as Lot no more left the gate and closed it behind him and ran it across the street, what happened to the city? Fire and brimstone. It burned to the ground. All right, and so there was only one other casualty when there didn't have to be any more casualties. The cities were utterly destroyed. And those that were survived, fantastic, but there was one more casualty, and who was that? Lot's wife. And why was she a casualty? When she made it out of the
She
city,
looked back.
She looked back. Amber, why did she look back? Why do you
Because
think
she
she
was
looked back?
longing to go back.
Ah, yeah. What'd she have to go back to? Is all being destroyed. And maybe it's just that. And that's what we're going to see in tonight's lesson is too. It's the look back of like, oh my goodness, what I'm losing, what I've left, and what I once valued or treasured or was at least a part of, and it's all being destroyed. Instead of just moving forward like the instructions were, she looked back against the warning. So we're going to see a little bit of that that maybe relates to Lot's wife a little bit, not so much as the saved that escaped and looks back, but that idea of what was her thinking and what was the reason for her to look back. Tonight we talk about the world mourning, all right, weeping, mourning over Babylon's fall. So that's your first fill in the blank. We see in verses 9 and following, over and over, it talks about those that weep and mourn because Babylon has fallen. So we can still have this picture in our mind of a city falling, but really we're talking about a worldwide empire that is much more than a city on a hill or a city in a location even with fortified walls or something. When you're talking about a worldwide system, a worldwide government, a worldwide currency, it's all tied and intertwined and everything, and this falls. And it's the weeping and that comes because of that. Now, the idea, by the way, of I got my globe and it's over there, all right? But you see the world, all right? As we think about the world, it's not the world, the planet, all right? And on this planet right here is still our precious Israel that's being protected through this event. Maybe even those that have been called out in a sense in this final hour because the destruction is coming. But as we think about that issue, realize that the thought of a worldwide reaction to this absolutely almost instantaneous event, which is so, it could seem so instantaneous. It talks about 1 hour, but again, we define 1 hour may mean 1 hour or in a very short period of time, maybe a day or two, but it could happen instantly. Now, don't tie this too much, but when we think of an instant destruction, we can picture a nuclear bomb. You think of the destruction of a nuclear bomb. That's just one bomb in one location, and yet that. But we understand the utter devastation that can cause. Now think of God's judgment, which is stronger than a nuclear bomb. All right, worldwide. Okay, and if we think about how does this play out, how does the whole world know what's going on? If we look at our history books and we saw what happened at Hiroshima and those kind of things, and we realize that was over there, and yeah, there was news reports and all that kind of stuff. But we have TV now, and it has changed our generation to where we celebrate, mourn, are mortified, are entertained on a worldwide basis. This past week, they had a funeral that lasted 6 hours. 6 hours. Can anybody tell me who that was for? Who? Aretha Franklin, right? All right. And the world mourned, and the news all covered it. I couldn't get any other news because they wanted to talk about that and the funeral of John McCain as well. All right. And the world took knowledge of that because it had the world news and all that. But think about how the reaction. I remember back in the day when Elvis Presley died, and I was living in Coram, Oklahoma, and I remember riding on my little bicycle, and I just remember one of my best friends, and his mom was in pieces because Elvis died. The king is dead, and I just thought, who? And yeah, I think I've heard of him. But what is that? Anyways, right? Okay. So there's that reaction. Yes, Steve.
Do you think that the other people that see that Babylon fell, do you think that they'll know why it fell?
Oh, that's a good question.
What I'm getting to, if somebody told us that Sand Springs got blown off the map.
Right.
Right now.
Yeah, we want to know why. What? Who did attack Sand Springs?
What happened?
Was it a natural disaster, or was it an attack, and why would they attack Sand Springs? So, yeah, that's a good question. Anybody have a thought on that? Do you think that the world understands why this destruction is coming?
I don't think they care. I don't
Ooh,
think
they're so caught up in it, they don't even, okay, maybe. I'm kind of thinking they have to know and understand some, because we have these mighty voices now. You know, do they hear the voices? I don't know if John is hearing the voices. I don't think he's been given a special hearing device where he only hears it. These are announcements that he is observing going out, and these are angels, mighty angels, and voices from the throne coming down like lightning and thunder and stuff. I think whether they acknowledge or accept it, they can't be. I don't know that they can be ignorant.
involved in it themselves, if they don't really
Yeah.
pay attention.
Yeah, their sanity does some crazy things. Okay, Clifford and Angela.
With all of our knowledge and technology, we're going to blame it on nature or something.
Yes, yeah, it could be, yeah, the aliens have finally come and caused destruction. There's all kinds of things that happens ever since the rapture. And so alternate explanations in denial or confusion can come up too. Angela and then Don.
I was thinking on the same lines, because I think that when the church is taken out, I wonder, I don't think, this is just like a wonder, if there's not a nuclear bomb that goes off somewhere that knocks the earth off the axis, because we have the telecommunication and all that kind of thing, to where they'd say, oh, well, we've had a major shift. And then people, that would explain
Scientific
people dying.
explanation
Right,
or all
scientific.
kinds of stuff, yeah.
And so if people are looking at that being the explanation, could the plagues and such, or the bowl judgments be
Explained away as well.
explained
or
away
something
as a
like that.
part of that?
At least in the minds of some, for sure.
Right,
Satan, yeah.
even
Okay.
though,
Don, and then I have an interesting thought or observation, Don.
I lean towards them having a pretty good idea of where this is coming from, primarily because of the different angels that are speaking out loud in the judgments, and I think that you know, at the time of Sodom and Gomorrah, I'm not sure that those people who were destroyed knew that it
They
was
were caught up
God
in what they were
destroying
doing, but they didn't understand the destruction
They
that was
didn't know,
coming.
they didn't know who was doing it necessarily.
Right.
But I can't help but believe that in this period of time, God wants them to know who's
Yes,
doing it.
he's making it clear. And have we not had indication over and over where this is a sign to repent and to turn, and they won't do it? And it's this thing of, you know, just raising their fist to the heavens and saying, you're doing this, and we hate you for it and all that.
Well, you know, God tried to, he told him to tell, he was telling him, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
And
Noah warned people in his day, and they weren't listening. That's going to bring me to my point. Jeannie?
During all, before this actually happened,
Uh-huh.
they've been the 7 bowls.
Yeah, they've had warning after warning. Yeah, this isn't just a one-time shot or something like Sodom and Gomorrah was a one. I mean, it was. They may have had preaching and warning and stuff like that, but as far as destruction's coming, no. God just says, "I'm judging you. Lot, you better get out. I'm judging them." It wasn't like go warn them and warn them and warn them. No, Noah's day was different. But here's a thought I had. Okay, do you believe that the rapture really could happen today? Tomorrow, that is a really possibility, or a week from now.
5 seconds.
Okay, if so, then these events that we're talking about at the 7th bowl are going to happen 7 years from now. Which means those same people we're talking about what's they're thinking, and they have the same truth that we have. They're hearing the same crazy preachers on TV saying, yeah, Revelation. You can flip through the channels and find them. You can go to any hotel and sit and pull open the drawer, and if you get past the Book of Mormon, you can grab a Gideon Bible, and I always take the Mormon Bibles and hide them. I don't steal them. Y'all don't do that? Nobody else does that? That's a great idea. Put them back behind the bed or something like that. Let the people find it. Okay, anyways, I'm off base. Okay. And that's all I'm using. Now I'm going to banned from hotels. All right, but those same people we're wondering about are some of the same people. If it happens now, they're in power right now. Or, you know, these people don't just, now the Antichrist seems to step into this role, you know, from kind of not knowing to all of a sudden being there. But these kings of the earth, they're people that are, I mean, what, shall I say names, like what we talked about this morning in a little country that one of our friends is going to? You know, there's people in power that may be among those kings and leaders that will step into their roles that can have heard and can find out. Now, do they care? They don't care what the crazy church is saying, so why would they care then?
Scripture says there will be earthquakes in various places. Oklahoma has had a great amount of earthquakes in recently, but it's all caused of the oil companies.
Yeah, blame it on the oil company, and we'll accept that. Yeah, it's
Well,
right.
look overseas, they've been having them left and right over there in Korea.
Yeah, and so I don't know that we heed much more the earth that. Rita, and then we got to get on. We haven't even started verse 1 yet. Verse
I wanted
9.
to point out the fact that Satan has already, with the power, with the false prophet and the Antichrist, have already performed miracles and convinced these people that he's the one.
Convinced, deceived.
So, so they may get it, but they probably
Don't
will
get it.
not.
They get it, but
because
don't get it.
That's why God has really finally called down his final wrath.
Right. All right, well, let's go to verse 9. All right. Revelation 18, verse 9. I'm going to put 9 and 10 together. We'll cover 2 verses all in one. Woo! Okay, who wants to read 9 and 10? Babylon being mourned. Okay, got it written?
And the kings of the earth who committed acts of immorality and lived sensuously with her will weep and lament over her when they see the smoke of her burning, standing at a distance because of the fear of her torment, saying, Woe, woe, the great city Babylon, the strong city, for in 1 hour your judgment has come.
All right, so as we're talking about the city being destroyed, all of a sudden he sees the kings of the earth, and that's your next fill in the blank there. It's the kings of the earth, and they're mourning. And why will they mourn?
Well, they have been with her and they.
Okay, they've been with her, and who is her? Babylon, also Babylon the city, and you could even tie it to, they're tied in with Babylon the woman or the harlot, which is the religion part. So we got government. They bought into all of it, right? They bought it. They slept with her. You know, that's kind of a term, a vague term to say.
They stood back and watched and cried about it, but didn't want to help.
Okay, yeah, let her burn, yeah, but so they stand and watch this, and they're just like, oh my gosh, look what's happening to the one that I was committed to the one that I bought in with, and the one that I was a part of that I thought was the winning train out. I mean, I thought that was a winning team, and it's obviously not. Someone else wanted to define why they think, this is left open. I'm not going. This isn't a fill in the blank, but you need to answer this.
Their pleasure was gone.
Their pleasure was gone. That's another thing, Sherry.
I think it all goes back to the idea it's all about me.
Okay.
You know, those kings they're not thinking of Babylon. They're not sorry for that. They're sorry for themselves, their loss.
Babylon as it affects me. Yeah, so it's okay. And so I'll put that, this is my answer, selfish anguish. So this is a selfish mourning, all right? It's not a genuine concern for something or someone else. It's selfish anguish and terror. Terror, why are they afraid?
Happened to her, it can happen to them.
What's happening to her is going to affect me. And yeah, what's come upon her or it, the government, the world, everything. Remember, they've already turned and destroyed the harlot that was along with the world religion and stuff. And so this is getting you better watch your back kind of a thing going on here. So I put selfish anguish and terror. And then I put this too, as they observe this and mourn, the kings of the earth. Remember, in this specific scripture, we're talking about the kings of the earth. We're talking about the 7 heads, the 10 horns, okay? So we're talking about the leadership, the top guys in the world in this particular scripture. And it could even be the smaller kings, but certainly all the major players in here are mourning. But in this is hopelessness and loss. I mean, utter hopeless. When you deny God and you face tragedy, you have no hope. And the one that you put your hope in, and they've taken his mark, the 666, so they put their hope in him to defend them. They put their hope in Babylon, the government, the city, and Babylon, the religion of Babylon of worship and all that. They've put all that in that, and that's what they trusted in, and it's failed. And in 1 hour, God destroys it, and they mourn. Read it.
Well, the loss of power is tremendous too, because that was
yeah.
the main reason that they went along with it, because
Good.
they wanted the power.
They wanted the power, and now Cherry said it's how it affects me and stuff. So these are the ones that out of the whole world, I mean, I'm a part of the world empire. There's only 7 of us that has top pins, and then there's these other 13 guys that have temporary authority, you know. We're talking about a small group of people as it refers to this in specific. Yeah, they're nothing now. Babylon's gone. The world empire is gone. They bought into it and it failed. They put their stock in the wrong market. All right. So verse 11 through 13. This is going to kind of sound a little bit redundant, but just we do want to separate. Gene? Okay. 11 through 13. We move to the next distinguished group, the next group that it talks about. That's part of this mourning process.
The merchants of the earth weep and mourn over her because no one buys their cargo anymore. Cargo of gold, silver, precious stone, and pearls, fine linen, purple, silk, and scarlet cloth. Over every sort of citron wood, and articles of every kind made of ivory, costly wood, bronze, iron, and marble. Cargo of cinnamon and spices and of incense, myrrh and frankincense, of wine and olive oil, of fine flour and wheat, cattle and sheep, horses and carriages and bodies and souls of man.
Okay, we're going to have to explain, especially this last couple. Okay, so we have first John. He hears this Babylon is fallen and the destruction is coming, and the kings stand afar off and they see and they mourn the destruction and what it does to their place in the government or in the world and their value and everything like that. And then it changes attention to the merchants of the earth. The merchants of the earth. Why does, according to what Scripture just said, why do they mourn?
Because they just lost it all.
Yeah, they lost it all as well. And get this, think about their loss. Just like the kings don't mourn for the fall of Babylon because they feel so sad for Babylon. Poor Satan and poor Antichrist, poor false prophet. They feel, bless their hearts, you know, I feel bad for them. You know, no, that's not okay. So neither do the merchants have that kind of feeling as well. All right. The merchants, they are not mourning because of the loss of life. Think about the millions that are dying, the death and destruction because of what they're doing, what they bought in. Not to mention the death and the destruction of saints that have been martyred and stuff like that. They're not mourning because of the loss of life, nor are they mourning because souls are going to hell. All right? All those on earth that are being judged and they are lost eternally for hell. And Satan, who is their leader, is lost. And so they're not mourning for that either. Nor are they mourning for their own sin. See, once again, they don't cry, oh, what have we done? We chose wrong. You know, we see that Israel bought into the Antichrist thing until they realized we got on the wrong, and they repented and they accepted Christ. That's good mourning. That's rightful repentance. Is I'm sorry for my sin. They're not sorry for their sin. They're not sorry for anybody else's sin or anybody else's loss. It is just a self-centered, selfish loss. But get this, they'll mourn because they've lost customers. You want to talk about how ludicrous this weeping is that they do. There goes my business. They wouldn't say it like that. They'd say it as someone that lost. You see, I don't know if it's even fair to compare this, but you hear about, we've had some recently here in Oklahoma, in little towns and stuff, a business burning or something like that, maybe 2 or 3 buildings, and, you know, old historical landmark kind of buildings, and, you know, that old cafe that's been there since my grandpappy did it, you know, and all that kind of stuff, and all this kind of stuff, and the weeping over all that kind of stuff. Now, put that on a worldwide scale and think about all this lost. And that's why you put it right. They've lost it all.
Yeah, but what I was thinking too, is just back in the Old Testament, God told them, don't store up.
All right, you're getting into my scriptures. All right, hold on to that. You're right. That's good. All right. Now, this list of things that were listed, there's got to be a reason. Think about the stuff we're talking about here, and all of a sudden we're talking about material and jewels and different things like that. what interesting that it would just not say they lost everything, or they lost their stuff, or their product has gone down the tube, or something like that. I mean, it listed, we're talking this, it goes through a long list. This list of about 30 items, all right? 30 items. We have so much that in one word or one phrase, millions die or something like that, and yet here it's talking about the loss of stuff, and it names it this, and this, and this, and this, and this. These 30 items are similar to another list in Ezekiel 27. We don't need to take time to read it, but that talks about another city. In Ezekiel chapter 27, there was a destruction of a city that had a similar list of products on the shelf. Anybody know what that city is? Or did I put it in there? I did. Tyre. Yeah, T-Y-R-E, Tyre. The city of Tyre in Ezekiel 27. And guess what? They wept and they mourned. We've lost it all. Great Tyre is destroyed, and our gold and our scarlet and all, everything's gone. And they mourned over Tyre and the destruction and the loss of material stuff, which is going to get us to what, what's your name? Steve was talking about. All right. Thank you, Steve. All right. Now, what was just described, these products, these items on the shelf and everything, I saw this, so I put it this way. When they were taking inventory, insurance, you're supposed to list all the items, your TV and your jewelry and your couch and your flat screen TV, all that kind of stuff, right? All right. This is a dead inventory. I mean, this is a dead inventory. The inventory that is described that is being lost, and there's got to be a reason for this description. These are the goods of an affluent society. They're not, it didn't mention the T-shirts from Walmart and the gator shoes, not gator shoes, but Crocs. All right. It just didn't happen to say, hey, there's a bunch of stuff and we lost it all. No, we lost the most. These items that are described are things that, in some sense, are actually almost not extinct like animals get. But I mean, you can't get them anywhere. Oh, but Babylon got it. And they dealt in it because there's money in it. All right. Luxuries and things that are maybe even illegal to have. The tusks of elephants and all that. There's a market for all that kind of stuff. Rhinoceros, they'll kill the rhinoceros. Just get that one little horn off of the front of it. And we learned this in Africa. They'll cut that off so that the poachers won't kill the animal just to get that thing. But then that's like a status symbol among the other rhinos and stuff like that. So it's not a good thing to do. It puts them down on the list or something. But anyways, I vary. Okay. So what this is talking about, we're talking. I'm out of my league here. So what is it? Saxon Fifth.
Yeah.
Fifth Avenue. That's in Saxon Fifth Avenue. That's the well-to-do stuff. Isn't that the well-to-do stuff? Isn't that what they always say on the TVs or movies? It's what? Name. It's not just name brand clothing. It's like the name. It's like Saxon Fifth Avenue. All right. It's like that versus the Dollar Tree. Everything's a dollar. Now, if the Dollar Tree burns, do you think people will be wanting to list the items? Oh, the eyeglasses, the cheating glasses, you can get $1. Oh, they're all gone. How will we see? No. This is the expensive stuff. Now, we know we're not talking about just material stuff, but we are at the same time. What's that? I should be in retail. I'm supposed to be in retail. Yes, Sherry?
These are things that we invest in.
Investment. And what is an investment? We put our treasure there. We invest our money in our life, and we lose that investment, and oh my goodness, what's going to happen? James warned against such loss. Let's go ahead. Let's go to the New Testament, or let's go to James chapter 5. Someone read 1 through 3. James 5, 1 through 3. Well, I get something great. Here we go. Who wants it? James 5, 1 through 3. Anybody? Everybody? All right. Rita's got it. James 5, 1 through 3.
Warning to the rich oppressors. Now listen, you rich people. Weep and wail because of the misery that is coming upon you. Your wealth has rotted and moths have eaten your clothes. Your gold and silver are corroded. Their corrosion corrosion will testify against you and eat your flesh like fire. You have hoarded wealth in the last days. Look, the wages you failed to pay the workmen who mowed your fields are crying out against you. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord Almighty. Oh, I went all the way to 4.
That's right. But what that is describing is the same warning. Don't invest your life in it. Don't make that all that's important to you, because that can be gone in a minute. And it can have great value, but that great value, it burns just like the rest. It can be destroyed or stolen or gone just like the rest.
Just like the stock market.
Yes, all right. And I've got that too. Y'all are thinking right ahead of me. I can't get it out fast enough. All right, we'll talk about the stock market in just a minute, all right?
Sam Walton died.
Had
all the money that he ever needed, and all his grandkids did to him benefit.
Yeah, it didn't stop him from dying, and yeah, okay, so we have to remember that. Now remember, this Babylon, all right, and this world government, these that have bought into this, the kings and the merchants, they all bought into it. Remember the description of the woman in Revelation 17:4. What was she wearing? All dressed up in a vest. She was in scarlet, and yeah, riding that beast, right? And what good did that do it? To have the finest clothes and all that kind of stuff. It didn't help her one bit. What is being described here is that we can't trust material stuff, and that can't be our investment in life. Now, in that description, in the items that we were listing, we're talking about all these gold and stuff that, like in Tyre, and stuff that James warned against, and that kind of stuff. And when Gene read that list, though, he got all the way to the bottom of the list, and then it said bodies and souls of men.
Slaves.
Slavery. The idea that in modern day we can have slavery, no, that's something that happened way back in history. That was like before people had TV and were informed, and news reporters that, is slavery happening in our world today?
Yes.
Can bodies be sold for nickels on the dollar?
Yes.
Okay, absolutely. There's such thing as human trafficking. There's sex trafficking. And it's not just a thing that, believe it or not, it still happens or it is happening. It's an epidemic, isn't it?
Well, the senators and them hired the people from over in the other countries,
Yep.
they don't have any money, and they become a slave for them.
That's right. There's all kinds of, and so think of this, and that's in a world with the church in it, and that's a world with the Holy Spirit at work in it. Now, think about how much they'll buy into this because it's all they got. And they think, well, anything else? Well, you hear the commercials, buy gold, buy silver, it's going to last. That's the only thing. Everything else may fail. Well, this is telling us no, I'm not saying don't buy that, but that's not a surefire, protected commodity, is that it's all going to fail. Even in that day and time, and we can say in our day and time, even people become a commodity. They're on the shelf, just like anything else. If I can make money off of you, you're my product. And guess what? The merchants are weeping because they're losing that product as well.
Well, I don't remember where it was at, but it said that whatever you hold tightly, God will come up and tap your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got to be careful. Let's read verse 14. We're doing pretty good. 15 minutes. Who wants verse 14? Okay, Wanda.
They will say, the fruit you longed for is gone from you. All your riches and splendor have vanished, never to be recovered. All right.
What is that word right there? What happened to all these? Is that a word? It's supposed to be splendid? I read this word, I don't know what that word is. Splendor and glamorous things. I don't know what I was trying to say there. Scratch it out of there. What happened to all these glorious things? What happened to all those things? What happened? It vanishes. It's all gone, all right? It all disappeared. They will all cease to exist. They'll disappear, never to return. This is the final, we're not going to have a going out of business sale so we can open up down the street with the same merchandise. That's what they do all the time, isn't it? Last days, everything must go. What we don't sell, we'll just open up down the road.
Right.
I know they do that. Yes, all right. All right, now, there's a parable, by the way, and this reminds me of that how quick things can happen. A fire can destroy right away. A stock market, we brought up the stock market. In an instant, great wealth can be destroyed. People's entire life, it took a lifetime to build and to invest, and it can be gone that fast. Not only can it happen, it has happened, it does happen, it is happening, and it's going to happen on a worldwide scale. Jesus tried to warn against this as well. Remember the parable of the rich fool? Someone read Luke 12. I think we got time. Real quick. Someone read real quick. Luke 12. There's some references I didn't put down on there. But when he talks about everything disappearing and vanishing and everything, Luke 12, 13 through 21. 13 through 21. He's got, okay, Marilyn's got that. Luke 12, 13 through 21.
Then one from the crowd said to him, Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. Then he said to him, Man who made me a judge, or an arbitrator over you. And he said to them, Take heed and beware of covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of the things he possesses. Then he spoke a parable to them, saying, The ground of a certain rich man yielded plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, What shall I do, since I have no room to store my crops? So he said, I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there I will store all my crops and my goods. And I will say to my soul, So you have many goods laid up for many years. Take your ease, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, You fool, this night your soul will be required of you. And then whose will those things be which you have provided? So is he who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God.
All right. As a parable, it's just an earthly story, but it has a heavenly meaning. And just as he said, you fool, your soul will be required of you tonight, and what's going to come of all this? Imagine what that is in that day. Your soul is being required of you, and all the best things of the world, and all the power and authority and everything, and all the beauty and splendor cannot protect you against this. The stock market crash of 1929 reminds us of this. It reminds us of what Jesus said in Matthew 6, 19 through 20. Anybody want to guess what that said? Don't store up your treasures on earth, but in heaven.
And there was a lot of suicides.
A lot of suicides. People were hopeless. And I was watching one of those genealogy shows or something like that, and someone traced back, and when they found out about a great-great-grandparent or something like that, it went back to this, I think, if I remember right, the stock market, and he took his own life. And then they didn't know that because it was that. They lost everything and just it was hopeless. And so...
There wasn't nothing to be had then.
Yeah, it was just terrible.
Scripture is, don't build a treasure where your heart is.
There, and yeah.
Where your treasure is.
That's right. Yeah, so wherever your treasure is, if it's an earthly stuff, that's where your heart is, and your heart's going to get broken. And that's what's happening right here. Their hearts are broken because that's where their treasure was, in earthly things. All right, verses 15 through 17a. I need someone to read very careful because you can only read half of verse 17. Who wants it? All right, Angela, you got it. 15 through 17a.
Okay, the merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand after off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold, and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught.
Okay, come to naught, or had come to ruin. All right. So we have in this worldwide grieving mourning, we have the kings that mourn, and then the merchants that mourn. But then it defines as a kind of a separate group the merchants of these things. And so the emphasis on those be like the shopkeepers. All right, not just the CEOs of the company. All right, but the ones that maintain. I don't know if that's really a fair description of that. But it talks about this other group mourning. Why do they mourn? They mourn because they prospered. They prospered by brokering deals with Babylon. They bought into that lady that was wearing scarlet. They put their stock in that and everything. And they mourn at a distance. Why do they mourn at a distance? It could be that they're in their executive suites, some of the upper merchants in the dealers of this stuff, and they're up in their executive suites halfway around the world watching that TV set and watching it all go down the tubes. All right? They can mourn all over the world because this is a worldwide investment. It's all this stuff, all this treasure and everything has come to naught. And the beauty and the wealth, because it talks about her and the way she was dressed, the beauty and the wealth, there's no protection against utter destruction. And that's what's happening. There's a description here of men crying, weeping in public. I mean, it's just a spectacle. They're not, you know, oh, men don't cry, you know, and they're certainly not over stuff. Oh yeah, men are crying here. The world mourns and they cry because they've lost it all. 17b, and this sounds a lot the same, but it's the same kind of mourning that they're weeping over the fall of Babylon. 17b through 19, and then we got one more verse. Who wants it? All right, Gene's got it. 17b, pick up where that left off.
Every sea captain and all who travel by ship, the sailors and all who earn their living from the sea will stand far off. When they see the smoke of her burning, they will exclaim, was there ever a city like this great city? They will throw dust on their heads and with weeping and mourning cry out, woe, woe, O great city, where all who had ships on the sea, because rich thought her wealth, in 1 hour she has been brought to ruin.
Okay. This is a good place to just remind ourselves of this kind of image where we're trying to wrestle with. We can see that when it's a city and the ships coming in to bring merchandise to that city and everybody watching that city fall. But this is really on a worldwide scale. And so it's all of this world empire falling. In John's day, you couldn't even fathom a worldwide thing. You can imagine a city and those that could even stand on a hill and see the city fall, and then they look over there off the coastline and they see the ships that are there, and they're mourning as well. You can kind of get that picture. But this is still the same kind of thing. You can take a ship, you can talk about a train, which John couldn't have imagined. You can talk about an airplane. You can talk about an electronic device that moves money and merchandise at the click of a button that has nothing to do with cargo in a ship. But it's the idea of those that just take that stuff and travel with it, all right? So why do they mourn? Because the sudden destruction is of such great wealth in such a short time. It's astonishing. How could all this be lost in such a short amount of time? And it is a catastrophic failure, and it affects the multitude. So we go from, when we started describing this morning, kings, and we could narrow that down to a fairly small number. Then we talked about the merchants, and so we can think about merchants all over the world, and then the merchandisers, or those in the next, if that's a scale down, whatever. But now it's even talking, I put it the boat people. If you want to fill in your blanks, I put the boat people and the businessmen, all right? You might call these the little guys. What do they call them? The mom and pops. Well, not only the moms and pops, but the FedEx and all that. It's all the people that are caught up in this. We saw it with 9/11, right? The effects economically and just in the average course of business. What a disruption. And that was with 2 planes running into 2 buildings, you know? And the effects of that now, put it on a worldwide scale, and imagine this. And so this is trickle down. I mean, it is trickle down to realizing this is talking about the little guys. And why do they mourn? There goes our job. There goes my livelihood. Even people that are just transporting the stuff. Hey, I can never purchase that stuff myself, but someone's buying it. So if I take it from point A to point B, I get a little bit of the money, and this at least feeds my family. And even that's gone. So even the ones that aren't at the top and aren't in, you know, whatever, are being ruined by this.
Put it today on your retirement, your 401.
401k, exactly.
And it can drop in 1 day.
Yeah, 1 day.
Lose it all.
Yeah, it's like a worldwide power outage or a worldwide computer crash. That's all it takes. I mean, that's all it takes.
Well,
Janelle?
you think about all these people have bought into it, they've taken the mark of the beast, and they have felt secure in that.
Yes.
And then it's all gone.
How can you find security in something that can be gone in 1 hour or overnight, 1 day? Angela?
Well, even the people that Because it's like going down to the little guy.
Yes.
The little guy doesn't even have people to buy from.
Yeah.
If he had the ability to trade, there's nothing to trade for because
Exactly.
everything's gone.
Everything. And you can't just say, well, that, I'm gonna have to invest in something else, so I'm gonna have to, shift my assets to another area, or get into another line of work. It's all ruined. It's all ruined. Everything. Your job, your security, your investments, your hope of the future, what you bought into, it's all gone. Now we have one more verse. Verse 20, we're going to get that tonight, and then it leaves the last 4 verses for next week, all right? Verse 20, who wants our last verse for tonight? Got it, Janelle?
Yeah. Rejoice over here, O heaven. Rejoice, saints and apostles and prophets. God has judged her for the way she treated you.
All right, interesting switch in that verse right there. Talking about all this mourning and crying and weeping, all of a sudden he says, rejoice! All right, rejoice. There will be a time of celebration in all this, and who will celebrate? Heaven's going to celebrate. Fill in your blanks. The saints are going to celebrate. The apostles are going to celebrate. It defines these groups. And the prophets are going to celebrate. Now let me give you a definition of why that is. All right? Why? First of all, what are they celebrating? They're celebrating because God judged city Babylon. Not so much just city, but world empire. God judged this last world empire that says we will conquer God, we'll ascend above Him, and we will put it all together and everything. In 1 hour, God destroys it. And so heaven will rejoice. It's the final world government that's being destroyed. Now, why did it list those groups? Think of it this way. This is what the Old Testament prophets prophesied about. The prophets of the Old Testament said this was going to happen. And it happens. They're going to rejoice. They're in heaven, aren't they? The New Testament apostles predicted it. We talked about James. We talked about in some of the gospel accounts and stuff. And those 2,000 years ago, the New Testament apostles predicted this is going to happen. They're going to rejoice. They're in heaven as well, right? Get this. The tribulation saints, all right? They prayed for this. God, when are you going to avenge? This world system that's all about money and power and rejecting God and all that kind of stuff and false religion, false worship, and they killed us who dared to name the name of Christ. When are you going to avenge them? And God said, I will. And now it's happening. And we're to rejoice with them because God has rightfully judged what city Babylon has brought on herself. Isn't it a little bit of when you see someone truly get what they deserved after all the warnings and after all, and you want it, you got it. It's hard to really feel sorry for something like that, Don?
Don't you think the spirit of Babylon has been alive through all of the ages, and that's part of the reason why the apostles were martyred, why the prophets were martyred, and saints, because they were preaching and teaching a new thing that interfered with the way things were.
That's right. And because the leader of this corrupt world thing is the one that messed up the world thing in the garden, and it's Satan himself. And so he's been that threat throughout the whole thing. This world power, world government is only the car he's driving at the time. He drove Egypt, he drove Babylon, he drove Rome. All right, that's just the transportation right there. But it really goes back to the heart, and it goes back to the enemy who's been trying to destroy that. God wins, amen? Amen. Well, we're going to have 4 verses next week, and then guess what? I think we get a new color of paper, because we're moving on. We're moving on. Woo! We've been in yellow paper too long. I literally went through a 500 ream thing of yellow paper, and I didn't quite get us through the tribulation, so I had to go buy a 400 ream and get you through tonight and next week. And I think I've bought a new color. I'll reveal in color later, okay? Chapter 19. Yeah, I take back half a ring and get half the money back. So, all right. Well, thank you for being here tonight. Anything before we go? We're all good? All right. Woo! We made a lot of territory. Kathy, weren't you impressed? Totally impressed. I'm impressed too. Paul Land, would you please dismiss us in prayer, all right? Hey, pray for me this week if you haven't think. First of all, not so much for me. Pray for TJ. Don't forget, if you pray for TJ. TJ, that's in Korea, so we don't know where he's at right now in transport, whatever. He may be sitting in an airport. He may be landed somewhere. I don't know, but just pray for him. And as you think, we keep praying for TJ. Also, this is a strategic week for me. Thursday, we have our first Ministerial Alliance meeting, and I get to lead the charge. I've threw something kind of together, and Brian really helped me put it together. Marilyn got in on a little bit of it, but as Ministerial Alliance president, I went around Sepulveda and I took pictures just with my phone, and they turned out so cool. But I took pictures of almost all of the churches. We have almost 90 churches and ministries in Sepulveda, and I got pictures of most of them. And then I brought them back, and I said, Brian, put this on my laptop. How do we do this? So he got it all downloaded on there, and he put the things. We got marquees, we got pictures, and I put it to music, and I have about a 4-minute presentation of all the churches, which are the lighthouses in this community. It's the church at large. And so I'm hoping that as we meet this Thursday and we gather together, you know, we have 10, 15 churches that are pretty faithful to our Ministerial Alliance out of 90. So I'm encouraged by those that come, because it's a great fellowship and a great unity. Even with differences, we come together and just celebrate Jesus and work together for our Thanksgiving service, which will be coming up, and our Good Friday service and all that kind of stuff. But think of all those that are missing out. So I'm trying to kind of say, hey, let's keep trying to build this thing so together the church can be the church until at the trumpet call, the church is going, not just the local Baptist church, or the church is going. Yes, Don.
Dale's got a nephew and his wife that are both going to Korea sometime this month.
At the end of this month. And what are they going for?
Well, they're in the Army. They're being deployed, and they've got a little baby that's like 4 months old, and they're going to have to leave her.
Oh, leaving the baby. Ooh.
They can't take her with. They're not housing her.
So as we think of Korea, yeah, we got troops in South Korea and stuff. Wow, so good. Add them to that prayer list. Let's pray and be dismissed.
Lord God, we just thank you for the lesson that we've heard tonight. We just thank you for Mike's dedication to studying and putting in so much time preparing to explain this to us. Lord, just help us to understand it so that we can proclaim it to our lost friends and neighbors. Father, we just pray for TJ as he makes his journey over to Korea. Just give him success. Lord, prepare the way for him and guide him and protect him, Lord, and bring him back safely. Lord, we just pray as the Ministerial Alliance kicks off the new year, that you will just bless it and use it in a way that your word may be spread throughout our community. Guide us and protect us in this week, Lord. Just give us a great week and help us to proclaim your word in every place that we go. In Jesus'